It says it's streaming, so I think it's
Are
working.
indeed live.
All right. Just waiting on that box that this Paul was telling me about.
Hey, Ms. Schultz.
Hey, everybody.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to David C. Howard's go-to meeting, where we will follow the agenda as emailed to you. I would like to remind everyone this is the meeting of the Go team. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here quietly to observe. Mr. Baker, let me call the meeting to order at 4:32. And Ms. Baker, can you start the room?
All right, Dr. Maxwell,
Present.
Mr. Abernathy,
Present.
Ms. Baker, I'm present. Ms. Poe,
Present.
Ms. Schultz,
I am present.
Ms. Keenan,
Present.
Ms. Lewis, Ms. Walker, Mr. Carmichael, and Mr. Jones.
Here's Ms. Walker. Ms. Walker is coming in as we.
Oh, okay, great. All right, Ms. Walker, are you here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, fantastic, thank you.
Great, sure.
And also we had Ms. Lewis just now joining us as well.
Ms. Lewis, are you, oh, she's still joining. Ms. Lewis, are you present with us today?
I am. Sorry about that. I just got back home.
We're glad to have you. Thank you for making it.
All right, Ms. Baker, we officially have a quorum.
Okay,
All right, first order of business is to approve the agenda. Let me know when we have a motion to approve.
This is Tanisha Poe. I motion to approve the agenda.
All right, do I have a second?
This is Chelsea Schultz. I second.
All right, it's been moved by Ms. Poe, seconded by Ms. Schultz. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Agenda passes. Previous minutes from our February the 17th. This is the add-in meeting. Let me know when I have a motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes from the January meeting, or February meeting, sorry.
this is Mrs. Baker. I second that.
Moved by Ms. Keenan, second by Ms. Baker. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. So now that the budget is a action item, it says that we're supposed to actually motion and second and then discuss it.
Oh, I'm sorry. So go ahead. Tell me that again. What do I have to do? What do we have
So
to do?
now that the budget is an action item and not a discussion item, now we're supposed to motion, second the motion, then discuss it, and then everybody votes.
Okay.
So do I have a motion for the budget?
I motion to discuss the budget or however you need me to do it. I motion for it.
All right, that was Poe. And I need a second.
I second that.
And that's Ms. Schultz. All right, now we begin the discussion.
Okay. All right, let me make this bigger. Summary. Okay, so this is the third discussion. This is kind of the third discussion of the budget, right? So this is the third time that we're doing that for a Go team. Yeah, just on this page, it's this zero allocated balance. So we are at zero. And with the staffing, and let's see, so the staffing that we have changed is that Miss Randolph is at 1 full-time social worker. We discussed that. She went from 0.6 to full-time at David T. Howard. We also abolished the signature program person, the signature program that was Dr. Wyndham, and that was about 17, that was 0.17 of a teacher. That was something that was done throughout the cluster. But the other one, which that came up that I did not see, and that is Miss Varner's position. So what we had was, we had a year ago, we had 2 ESOL positions, 2 FTEs. So that was by the ESOL central office, so Dr. McKenzie. And so we didn't see that it went from 2.0 to 1.5. So in essence, Ms. Varner, who was the second ESOL teacher, would have been an itinerant, like, where she would have to be moved to another place. And so, and actually this should say, and I'm not going to mess with it right now because I don't want to mess, but the document, the only difference in the document that I submitted to HR is, instead of ESOL teacher, and so this is for the minutes, Ms. Baker, it's world language teacher. So we created a 0.5 world language teacher to go with Ms. Varner, so that Ms. Varner still is a full-time employee, or full-time employee, yes, at David T. Howard, and doesn't have to, go to another school. And so we've already talked to her about that. Spanish, we had high numbers in Spanish with Ms. Loxton. So a couple of her periods, she basically teaches 6 classes. A couple of her classes will focus on Spanish. And so that is the only change that we did not talk about at the last budget meeting.
So it's just changing Ms. Varner from a 1.5 back to a 2.0?
No, I'm sorry, from a 0.5 to a 1, because 1 is Miss Finkelstein. We used to, like 3 years ago, we had just a 1.0. Well, actually, to even go back further, Dr. Travelut was a 0.8. And then it became a 0.1. I'm sorry. It went from a 0.8 to a 1. And that was the second year of Dr. Travelut. And then it was a 2. And then we hired Finkelstein to replace Dr. Travelut and added Varner into that position. But then it went back to the FY22 as a 1.5. And I didn't catch that. Actually, Dr. Wolfolk caught that. And so that's where you're going to see a 0.5. So that is the only change with staffing. Non-staffing, we still do not have, we have not taken out of that reserve at all. That's at 144,000. And let me get it up to 200%. And so none of that has changed from the last part of the budget. And we've talked about, and I'm going to talk a little about the CARES Act, which is something different, but I don't want to muddy the waters, because we do have CARES Act money, which is $240,000 that we can use in different ways. And I'll talk about that. But we can use that reserve money for another para. We could use it for different supplies. And so hopefully we get that money, or at least some of it. But that didn't change from the last time. And I know I sent you the budget, or the budget is in the Google Drive. And this is the same budget that you're seeing now. Hourly. So we did change. I guess the other change is with the bookkeeper. So the bookkeeper went from full-time to hourly. And so that is that line right here. And we're going to continue with Ms. Tukes, and we've spoken to her. Stipends. We get 5 stipends, and we added 5 more stipends to make sure that we get our connections lead stipend, our grade level leads, our content leads. But that hasn't changed from last time. Tools and checks, the same. 9 days per teacher. And so that's our substitute budget. And then kind of the same thing as the summary, but this is just a different way to look at it. So any questions about, the world language or anything that we have done? Like I said, this is basically a pretty, definitely if you've seen my budget over the last few years, we have made some changes and abolished positions, added positions. But this is, we're not doing too much like we talked about, because we're in this virtual world. We're just going back barely now to in-person. So we don't want to make too many changes as we get into next fall. And that's all I have. I mean, like I said, it's not vastly different from what we spoke about at the last meeting.
Do we have any questions or anything for Dr. Maxwell in the budget?
I think it's pretty straightforward. It's exactly what we talked about before. So,
Dr. Maxwell, I have a quick question. When we looked at the budget last time, there was a slight shortfall. I think there was a number in red. It was about $24,000. How did you reconcile the budget? What changes were made to reconcile that?
The non-staffing. Like I decreased web-based subscriptions, decreased a little bit of the supplies, and always very fortunate at Inman and David T. Howard, because of the PTO and the foundation, that we can do that, and they can pick up if we can't pay for some of those subscriptions or supplies.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the budget, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm abstaining.
You abstaining? And
Yes.
Ms. Walker is abstaining. All right, budget passes. Next on the agenda is discussion items.
Oh yeah, actually, I'll put that up on there.
I can toggle on my screen.
Well, and I'll put that on there too.
Yeah, I don't want to mess anything up.
There you go.
All right, so it's the CARES Act.
Yeah, so the CARES Act, each school is getting money for the academic recovery. Now, this does not have anything to do with the summer. So the 4 weeks in the summer, what's going to happen there? We don't know. Like if you ask me like, hey, what's going to exactly happen? We don't know all of that. But this is the money that we can use to help us out right now if we want to, all the way into next year for the 21-22 school year. And it's interesting, the CARES Act, when they give it to you, it's like, oh yeah, you can use that within like a 2 or 3 year period. But basically then when it gets down to the state or local level, then they tell you something, they could tell you something differently. And they did, they said, hey, this is the money that you need to spend for next year. And so we are, and I will, in the April board meeting, have you look at that budget line by line. Like we're just basically sending something to that, sending, when I say then, to Larry Wallace in central office on like ideas that we have for that, for what we're going to do. But there's a few things that we've already have thought about and have budgeted for. A lot of it's going to be staffing, but we are going to continue with the TIP program the fourth quarter with the virtual where it's after school. We've seen a lot of success in that. And so I know some teachers will want to be involved with that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Ms. Schultz, go ahead.
No, I can wait until you're finished.
Okay, no, that's fine. And then we are, and again, this has to do with staffing. And so we are using a math and an ELA teacher for next year and give them a stipend to really focus on those students that were not successful this past year, and to make sure that there's somebody that's looking at their data and that they're going to present that to us, and we're looking to even give those 2 teachers a period off. We are putting money aside for MTSS and some of the data entry that happens. MTSS is our system for the tier 2 and tier 3 students. We are the Saturday program. I mean, that's a big one, right? And that's what I want to talk about, is that we thought about the Saturday recovery program that Sutton is doing, that it's going to cost $40,000. We put money into transportation, into supplies, into teachers. So that's something that our plan is to do that. And so I know that was something that the GO team wanted to see happen. The other thing that we're doing, and I mean, it became prevalent actually with in-person learning, is that, and I know this is something that the board really wants us to look at, but our plan is to hire a part-time parent liaison, right? So it's not just going to be voluntary. It's going to be part-time, and hopefully that it'll eventually can be full-time. And so what we've talked about, and we've actually, Morningside, Ms. Sofianos, Dr. Bachman, but we're all seeing that and even thinking of it as someone that could be bilingual because we have our ESOL population also. Also, what we found out with parents is not only to get them engaged, but Ms. Poe, which she might have to go off, but she really liked this idea. She's kind of becoming the instructional technology social worker. Like, she's the one that's talking to these families about how to get on Infinite Campus, how to do Google Classroom. So if we can find that parent liaison that could, help Mr. Perry register students at the beginning of the year, because some of our parents have difficulty in registering their student, that they can help out the social worker and the counselors. I'm sure Ms. Schultz would love, more help with engaging families, that they can help with technology issues, that they can help with some of these families that are not speaking English. We just had a situation. That's what I said. I could give you probably 7 or 8 examples since this in-person has happened. I mean, we knew that the importance of the parent liaison, but then we were like, oh gosh, if we had a parent liaison, actually they could have helped with this issue and got these kids in quicker to in-person learning. And so we feel like that we can fund that with the CARES Act. All right, I'll pause there. I know Ms. Schultz had some questions over that. And again, this is preliminary, and this is a time too. If you have any ideas, anything as far as thoughts that we could do or questions, It is not like, and remember that, you can also email me this information too, because sometimes like on the spot is tough. But yeah, we haven't finalized it yet, and we should be finalizing it the next month. Ms. Schultz, go ahead. I think you had a question.
Hey, yeah. So first of all, I think that so much of what you've outlined and detailed is going to be just so instrumental, and I'm excited about it. I'm only speaking from a place of, what I've been doing and what I've been noticing. And the MTSS it's important and it's a lot. So with that being said, it 100% is important, especially with us, coming back in person. And we're, this is something that we've discussed with Ms. Antone, we're anticipating more students getting placed on plans. And so first line is it's important. Second line is it's a lot. And so, it's something that we as the counselors are, we have the entire counseling side of things. So we often might have to miss like a counseling professional development to make sure that we can attend the MTSS one. And it sometimes feels like, there's a lot of give and take in that way. And I certainly think that on the 504 side of things, there's probably a lot of additional stuff as well. My whole point in saying this is I'm wondering in that CARES Act and I know you had outlined it, that maybe we can offer a stipend to a staff member to help with data entry, or if there's just some way that we can have whether it's a paraprofessional or a current staff member, just to kind of help with the logistical side of the MTSS front. That would be so helpful. And I certainly can brainstorm more on, what would be the most helpful, but I just wanted to at least plant that seed.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a great comment. And I think that's exactly what you need to do is, sometimes like, oh yeah, this is going to be helpful for the counselors, but you might think, well, actually, if we had this person doing these job responsibilities, that this would help us. So if you could outline that a little bit, because remember that not only with the CARES Act, but we're hoping, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this administrative transfer, what we're doing is we feel like that we're going to meet our goals of enrollment and probably get a little bit more. Plus, if we get that reserve money, I mean, that's something that we can definitely support the counselors and the deans, like you said, with those 504s. So great point.
Awesome. And also we'll make sure that at our next MTSS meeting that we outline that a little bit more, so I can get you more of a concrete idea of what those needs are. Thank you, Dr. Maxwell.
Okay. Yep. Other questions, thoughts?
Hey, it's Janine. I don't have a question. I just had feedback or thoughts around this for the whole team about maybe how we, you guys are thinking about getting a math and ELA, some kind of instructor on that front, us looking into science as well, because that's an area of need for a lot of kids, and them being in the virtual environment, it was harder for them to kind of conceptualize some of the things and learn some of the knowledge they needed to learn. So just thinking about how we can uplift that on the science side of things. And I think the parent liaison thing is an absolutely great idea. I would really want to push that forward and have that come to fruition. So anything I can do on my end, I'm willing and able.
Thanks, Ms. Walker. And I did bring it up to the leadership team today, and they were all for that parent liaison. I mean, I think we really need that. So it's all been positive. Any other questions?
All right, it's still on you, Doc, with the principal's report.
Okay. So the return to learn fourth quarter, I mean, well, it's 4:56. So, I mean, I could kind of go on about it, but because obviously learned a lot over these last few weeks. We've learned a lot, the staff, the feedback about the return to learn. And so, the staff has been outstanding. I mean, obviously they were hesitant. I mean, we understand. I mean, I feel like we've worked on those safety precautions. We're starting out slowly. We have kids going outside now, when we can, to eat and to get a little exercise. But to take what we're doing now and switching it into a normal school in fourth quarter, I think would be Herculean. Like I don't see that happening. And I tell you, there's a few reasons. First of all, I've only heard from probably one of our 15 teachers, and I'm not asking. This thing that I'm not going to ask, but that they're going to tell me probably. And one did say that if she got vaccinated, that she's going to be back. But I think a lot. I would say that even as the teachers get vaccinated, they may not be back this school year. Some of the vaccinations are happening now, but even that you have 2 vaccinations, you got to wait a certain amount of time for the second vaccination. And then they said if you're not fully vaccinated for maybe a week or 2 after that second. Again, I'm not going to get into the science of it, but you're ending up right around spring break, even if you're thinking about if you're doing it now. Like I'm getting my vaccination this Wednesday. So you have that. So it's really hard if you don't have teachers in the building to create a model where you're going to transition 6 times. And today, today of all days, we had 2 teachers getting vaccinated. So we had to work on that. We had about 5 teachers out that are not teleworking. They're just out. And I understand one's, not feeling well because she got the vaccination. One's got a dentist appointment. One has childcare issues because they're, there's all these things. And so we're scrambling just to get teachers in when we're not transitioning at all. And, we're trying to get people into place. We're splitting classes. And so that's a problem. And then you want to try to maintain that 6-foot distance. I said this before, and I've had parents email me, but, we had, I'll give you the example. We had 6 out of 16 teachers out in 6th grade, and then we had a COVID case, and so we had to quarantine that class. But if those kids, that same kid with that COVID case, are moving around the building and we weren't providing that 6-foot distance, we would have had 10 out of 16, maybe ultimately, 6th grade teachers out, and we would have had to shut down the entire 6th grade over 2 weeks because we wouldn't have enough teachers. So anyway, there's that issue. And then there's, again, you're looking at, we have 43 days left of school. When you talk March 22nd, you subtract 9 of those days, which is asynchronous, which is 34 days. You have 14 days of testing of STAR and milestone, which means nobody's moving. During that time. And again, that's going to be a big hurdle, especially for milestones. Now you have 20 days. And, I think there's going to be a decision made on whether we are coming back right after spring break, or we're going to have those 5 days that are virtual. Now you're talking about 15 days. And so that's definitely on our mind as an administrative team. But ultimately, and here's the last thing. If we decided to move students into 6 transitions, then you're losing 2 special education teachers when we can spread kids out, 2 paras, 1 or 2 paras at each grade level that you can spread out, because then they'll have classes. So it makes those classes bigger. And then we have right now 475 students. So we have 475, about 40% of our kids that are coming back. And so we have, and I don't have, let me see if I can just pop up these numbers really quickly. Let me stop sharing. Basically 180. I'm going to give you just a roundabout around 475, because it's actually changing today because it's the last day. So we have approximately 180 6th graders, 130 7th graders, and 150 8th graders. So, that's 460. So, all of that's about north of 180, probably more like 140. I'm sorry, about 140 7th graders and about 155 8th graders. So that's where we are now.
So I'm sorry, my computer's acting glitchy.
Yeah.
So what did you say the percentage is?
40%. 40% of our kids would go back in person. So that's going to be a challenge even by spreading out those kids. Let's not even say like, I mean, if we try to transition, you know, we have probably about 20 kids in a class, 20 kids in 6th grade in each class, which will be way over the 6-foot distance. So now there's CDC guidelines are changing with people who are fully vaccinated, which I thought was interesting. But teachers being fully vaccinated is going to happen because, you know, vaccinations today, vaccinations tomorrow, they're going to be vaccinated, fully vaccinated at different times. And so that's where we are right now. I'm going to talk about that to Wednesday to our staffing meeting, and then Friday at a lunch and learn. And I think what we're going to try to do is definitely do some different things moving around for the brain breaks. We're going to have a second transition, like we're going to 2 different classrooms at least, like 2 and 6, 2 and 7, 2 and 8, plus the connections class. We're going to continue to work outside, and I mean not work outside, but go outside, weather permitting. And so I mean that's where we are. I mean that's the reality of all of that. Now, could things change? Could all the teachers that are teleworking, they get vaccinated and they're going to come in April? I mean, yeah, I mean I guess that could happen. But I think it's going to look a lot like March 22nd with what we're doing now, including the teachers. Like I think we'll have about the same amount of teachers back, and we're going to still have staff who will take personal days. They're allotted 3 personal days. They should be able to take them. They're going to have sick days. They're going to have a sick kid at home, and so that just makes our job tougher. Whether we are in the same space right now, or we're trying to move around. If we're trying to move around and transition, it's even harder. And I'm sorry, this is the last point, but I think it's a point I definitely want to bring up, because I get that a lot. Is well, elementary is doing this. Elementary is they have K-5 licenses. They can move to 3rd and 5th grade. I mean, I think there was one CELT who had a K-5 certification in one of our Grady cluster schools that are going to end up teaching. We have specialized teachers. Like we can't have our 8th grade science teacher teach 6th grade social studies. We can't have our art teacher teach math. And so that's why it's more difficult for middle school or high school. And so that's a reality. That's where we are.
So may I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So you said that there would be an extra transition.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we only have, 1, 2 connections and then 1 back. So where would the extra one go?
So they might go to another classroom. Like we might go to like another 8th grade classroom, just to get, I mean, especially if they could connect with another teacher that they know. It would be a little bit tougher in 8th because 8th grade's not on teams. So I don't know how that would work. I mean, Miss Beatles, who's an 8th grade teacher, is working on that already, but it's going to be a little bit harder to do because we're definitely have more kids coming into the school. So I say that's what we're going to try to do, but again, I don't know if it's going to be feasible at this time.
So you're not thinking we're going hybrid, where we'd have 1 set of kids Monday, Tuesday, and then another set Thursday, Friday?
No.
Okay.
No, because even if you split to 180, so you split it in 90 and 90, it's still going to be very difficult to maintain that 6-foot distance, especially with our telework. And knowing that, like I said, we do not have the special education teachers. We don't have the paras. We actually have a couple permanent subs. Those permanent subs are going to be used. Well, actually, one's being used right now because there's one teacher who resigned. And so that permanent sub is in that classroom right now. So they can't be used extra to spread kids out. So that's kind of where we are. So we're not going to go hybrid because I feel like many of the kids that are here right now, they need to be here 4 days a week. Not everyone, But I think there are a lot of students that need to be here 4 days a week and that are benefiting from coming into school.
Dr. Maxwell, for the principal lunch and learn on Friday, I just think it'd be really helpful to have a sample schedule. And I think you did that before.
Yeah.
To Ms. Baker's point, it may look different for 6th and 7th grade since they're on teams and for 8th grade. But you know, what I'm envisioning is student A arrives at the building at 8:50, reports to classroom 1 for first period and second period, goes to connections for 3rd period and 4th period, and reports to classroom 2 for the last 2 periods. You know, based on what you said, that those kids might, instead of being with one teacher for all 4 core classes, they'd be with 2 teachers, you know, 1 teacher for the first 2 core classes, 1 teacher for the second 2 core classes.
Right.
Something like that. You know, it can be certainly kind of high level and abstract, but I think if you did it that way, people would understand, you know, the amount of time that their kid will be sitting in one class with one teacher. And,
Okay.
and although a lot of people have received the message, I still do think there's a little bit of confusion, just reiterating that the children will be receiving instruction by Zoom. You know,
Yeah.
they will be sitting in a classroom, but they will be in front of their computer with headphones on, and that the teacher who is in the front of the classroom will not necessarily be teaching the child sitting in the classroom. People just still seem to have a lot of confusion about that.
Okay. So I see that, and I'm just going to kind of summarize that. So the sample schedule, and I feel like what you're saying is a day in the life of a student. So that's what I need to discuss. We need to discuss, and that to be explicit about how they're going to receive instruction.
Yes.
Okay. So the next part of this, which I think is even, and I'm going to talk about the lunch and learn, is the 2021-22 school year. And so, you know, our feeling is that then, I mean, obviously we're going to have staff vaccinated, that, you know, we could have kids starting to get vaccinated. I mean, I know they're already talking about that, but that the start of next year is going to look totally different than where we are at the end of the year. And I think I've said this before, but if we started in this in-person learning at the beginning of the year, then we could have moved kids into face-to-face instruction and into virtual instruction. And then they would go with the teachers who are teaching virtual and the teachers who are teaching face-to-face. And we might even switch the teams in a way, especially 6th and 7th, to do that. But I mean, I see that there's still going to be a virtual option for parents, and that we have to make sure that we give them that option. But I mean, our expectation is that we're going to be transitioning. Now, we might not ever see 400 kids in an auditorium, or 500 kids doing a assembly in the gym. I mean, I don't know. But as far as transitioning, will we be eating in classrooms or the cafeteria? I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's some of it that we've got to figure out. But we will be transitioning, and we will be in person in a more normal environment like we've thought in the pre-pandemic learning. And I just want to make sure I say that in the lunch and learn, because I'm getting from parents like, so is this going to be, okay, I got this. Is this going to be like this next fall? So I just wanted to bring that up, and I'll bring that up in the lunch and learn.
Dr. Maxwell, one other thing for the lunch and learn. You talked about the 14 testing days. If you could clarify that. So I assume that if you have a child who elects to go back face-to-face, during the 14 days of testing days, they are only going to report to school on the days that they're testing. Is that correct? If a child is not taking a test, do they have to be virtual that day?
I mean, we're working through that right now.
Okay, you don't know.
Yeah, because is that like something in the morning, and then we can work in the afternoon? I mean, we're getting these testing updates. To give you an example, like EOC, so the EOC, which affects most of the high school, but a few of our 8th graders, the EOC was only going to be 0.01, so 1/100th of a point. But until about a week ago, the state was saying that no matter that it was 0.01, you needed to take it to complete the credit in the class. But now they're saying, no, we don't have to do that. You do not have to do that. You don't have to set for it. It's just going to count as a 0 times 0.01. So it's not going to change your grade, which is great. And so we are kind of listening to what the EOG, the end of grade, how is that going to look? Is it going to be changed at all? But Miss Allen is working on that. We also have a couple of star dates that we'll definitely get to you, because I think one's like the 18th and 19th, and the other one's the 22nd and 23rd for math and ELA, and that's set by the district, not by us. And so I can give all those dates at least.
Well,
Lunch and Learn.
Another thing that needs to come out, and I know this came up at our grade level on Friday, is that some of the milestones dates will be on a Wednesday, which right now we have as async. And so we'll have kids in the building and teachers in the building on those days.
Yeah. So that will happen. That's what we're doing with some of the gifted testing right now. And so they're in different locations so that the night crew knows that. And so they'll definitely clean that afterwards. So yeah, we are using Wednesdays as some testing dates. Okay, gifted 8th grade. And so one change that we're going to have, and this is going to increase our ELA and social studies 8th grade gifted courses, is that in gifted, it's always random except for the math in 6th and 7th grade. Well, also in 8th, but in 8th grade, you also have a set criteria for high school science. And so with that, if they meet both those criteria, that ends up being your 2 gifted segments. And so what we're going to do is so for those students where they have both of those courses, where they meet the criteria in science, high school science and algebra, they will get an additional social studies or ELA gifted segment. So they'll get a 3rd segment. And looking at the lens of equity, I mean, we're going to have some kids right now that are going to take the gifted test that you can argue can be biased in some ways, some of these gifted tests. And so we are going to take students in 8th grade, focusing on our students of color, but students who are not gifted, but that we feel the ability to be able to take the either gifted ELA or gifted social studies course. And we've done that before. It's called cluster classes, right? And so, and what we want to try to do, one of our goals is, especially for those non-gifted students that can take that, is just give them a little extra boost as they go into Grady or go into 9th grade. And so that is something that we feel very strongly, looking at it from an equity lens. And so what you're going to see probably is approximately, don't hold it to me, I got an 8th grade ELA teacher in here now, but that, 4 extra ELA gifted courses and 4 extra, or 4, not extra, but 4 social studies gifted courses. So 8 altogether, cluster, working with equity, but then also looking at those kids who, even though they might do well in science and math, but their love is humanities, and they can get a humanities gifted course also. And so that's something that we're planning on for next year. And Dr. Harper's working on that right now. Which brings up the other equity piece that I've talked about the last couple of years, and that is administrative transfers. See, usually in the Grady cluster, we're at 100% capacity. That's how it was been in Morningside, Springdale, Maryland, Grady, and Inman. That's why we've had portables, and that's why we've moved here. So now, going on our second year, we're about 85% capacity. So if you're under 90% capacity, then you can give the district an administrative transfer number, and for us in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And basically that's like, hey, if you want to apply to come to Howard, you can. And if it's, and so we've done that. 5 and 6th, 5 and 7th. So, and I think you might've heard the lottery. So say in 6th grade, there's 17 kids or 17 families that said, oh, I want my 6th grader to come to Howard. Then there's a lottery, and it's online. They do it, I think, live. And so that's where we are. And again, we feel like that's an equity piece. Like, we're a high performing school. Students want to come here, and we need to give more students the opportunity if they don't live in the cluster. So that's kids in APS, but they don't live in the Grady cluster. And so we're going to do that in 6th and 7th grade. And I think that's an equity, but also I think it helps us out because I think we'll get those 10 students. I think at least 10 families will apply, and that's 10 added to our enrollment, right? And so again, I think everyone, and that's what I'm excited about with having a chief equity and social justice officer, is that we're all looking at everything we do through this equity lens. And so that's a couple things we're doing with the gifted 8th and the administrative transfer.
How does transportation work for the administrative transfer? Are they, if a family, lives far away and they get in through this lottery system, do they have to find a way to get to school on their own, or does APS facilitate that?
They have to get to school on their own. Now, what's interesting for us is we're in the south part of the Grady cluster. So depending on who that, like for instance, if it's in Jackson cluster, it might not be that big of a deal, but yeah, that's the one thing about the administrative transfer. And that is all I have for you today.
All right.
I have a couple of announcements, but I think there's public comments. Are you going to ask?
Yeah, so we don't have anyone scheduled for public comment, so we'll move on to announcements. So you get your announcement stuff.
Okay. So there was a open records about the Inman building, and so I think I have that information, and I probably, Coach, I'm going to send that to you, because now it's public records and that you can send it to the GO team. Because we have a deeper dive in this conversation. I don't want to have it now because actually I want you to get to this information. But it was through the facilities, APS facilities. And so they were looking at zoning, and there was nothing set in stone. But again, it's that same thing, K-5, 4-5, 5-6. If it's a K-5 building, how would that zoning look? Would you take from Mary Lynn or Springdale? And so we weren't privy to that, like the principals, because I think it was just basically, and I don't even know which superintendent, I know it was Dr. C or Dr. H, but they were just saying like to the facilities, hey, if we had to do this, what would that look like? And so I'll send that to you, Abernathy, and then we can have that, put that on an agenda item for the Grady overcrowding. I mean, I will bring this up. This has nothing to do with Howard, but I think it's really important. And I feel for Dr. Bachman because it's only really affecting her. And that's this: the west side of the Grady cluster is, I mean, it's a lot of buildings, condominiums, apartments, and that's Centennial. That's K-8, and Centennial can handle that number. But that number then feeds into Grady, and Grady's overcrowded anyway, or not overcrowded. I shouldn't say that. I don't want to put that publicly, but I mean, it's definitely tight. It's 90%. That building, if you say, oh yeah, but they're building a wing, that just replaces the portables. That doesn't add to, it's not in addition, it is just going from portables to a building. And then you've got this Centennial, have this west side that is just going crazy as far as buildings. And that will affect Grady. And so I think it's something that the Go team, every Go team should know about, because ultimately it could affect the Grady cluster. And so anyway, the deeper dive into the facilities that we can talk about next time.
So it sounds like to me, it's an extension of the meetings that all occurred last year. All those meetings that they came and talked to us about.
Yeah.
Because
But
one
it
was in
was
our cafeteria.
district-wide.
Yeah, one at Enman, I think. One
Yeah.
at Grady.
One
I think
in
it was one at
cafeteria.
Grady. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, in the cafeteria. Yeah.
So it may affect us though if they decide to go with a because one of the choices was a 8th and 9th grade academy.
Oh, and one's a 5-6 academy. So it could affect
So
Howard. It could affect Howard. Yeah. And and you're going to get questions on it if you haven't already. And I want to make sure that we do a deeper dive. I mean, it's 5:22, but I want you to look at the slides and then come with some questions. Okay.
Any
The
other
la-
announcements?
Yeah, the other announcement is because it just came up yesterday, and so I'm getting ready
to have a little more information because they're having that meeting on March 22nd.
Oh yeah, that's true. March 22nd. Okay.
Yeah. So we have some more information prior to our next meeting.
Oh, that's great. The other thing that just came up, and then I'm going to send that out to remind, and it's a good thing, but it's going to be a little nerve-wracking tomorrow, is that we're going to have 2 media organizations coming tomorrow. So CBS, the local CBS affiliate, is coming tomorrow because Miss Pryor is doing a really good job with the masks for the trumpets and the trombones that VH1 actually donated. They donated 500 to APS. And so Miss Pryor is working from home. Miss Poindexter, who is, she's certified as a dance coach, but she's one of our paraprofessionals, she's helping out. So it's a feel-good story about how that she's using these masks, and they're going to be in with 8th grade. So that's coming at 11 o'clock. And not just one media affiliate, but we also have CNN coming. So CNN is coming, and they will, I say they, but actually, it's pretty cool that it's Dr. Sanjay Gupta will actually be here tomorrow. And he will interview Dr. Heron and just how virtual learning is going, how's the in-person learning, and then he's also going to go into a classroom and talk to a teacher and talk to some students. The teacher already knows, the students already know, and they've signed a media release. And we're doing it with 6th grade just because we have more kids in 6th grade. So anyway, again, I think it's just another positive story, a couple positive stories for Howard and for APS. And I mean, they just came to fruition yesterday, actually. And so I just wanted to let the Go team know, definitely let the community know, because, you know, when you drive by and you see 2 vans, one CBS and one CNN, sometimes you're not always thinking of positive, but yeah, both of them are positive and exciting.
I have 2 quick announcements, if that's okay.
I have one.
Yeah.
One is, please make sure you do your budget training, 5-minute video, 9 multiple choice questions. We need you guys to knock that out. And the other thing is that we have extended the declaration period for Go Team elections. We need at least 1 parent or guardian and 1 non-supervisory instructional staff member from each school. And right now, Howard is in the green, so you have at least 1 candidate. Yay! But of course, more people can declare. But the other thing is there are a couple schools in the Grady cluster which could use a candidate in either position. So if you know of anybody at some of your elementary schools, let us, or the high school who might want to run.
And we have 4 parents. So I was really happy to see 4 parents. Now we just have 1 staff member. And so again, Miss Baker, Coach Abernathy, Miss Schultz, if you you can let them know that it has been extended. So
right. But and part of this is I just want other people in the Grady cluster to know that it's extended. So, but you guys are green. So, and I have to jump off to go to another meeting at 5:30. Thank you all so much for all you're doing.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one announcement or comment or feedback. So as far as the declaration form, I discovered that there was some inconsistencies between what the district is sending out and what the school is actually getting. So I had a situation where the last declaration form, it said, so for instance, if your child is, if you want them to be in school option, they said only if you have any changes, change the form. So I didn't change the form, but then when it was time for the kids to come back to school, there was no slot for him because it kicked out all the other responses for whatever reason. So the district language is saying only change your declaration if there is something different. But I think that getting on the same page is you should just change your declaration. You should put in your declaration all together. So many parents had that issue.
Right, you should just check it, right?
No, that was the thing. I just checked it and I was like, okay, so it's still marked for in school, so I'm fine. Well, I wasn't fine because he got purged off the roll from whatever the district sent.
So they should complete it regardless. Regardless of your decision, you should complete it again.
Right, just ensure,
Complete it
because
again,
a lot of kids, parents didn't know what to do because of this issue. So like my son showed up to school, but there was no spot for him. And I'm like, I'm sure I chose this option. So just to make parents aware, and I guess on a micro level at the school, we just have to push that and tell all the parents to fill out the form. And I've been trying to talk to people at the district about the language, because even in this last one for March, says the same thing, only if things are changing. But I think they're giving there's some misinformation there.
Okay, that's good to know. And the only other thing is I felt like there's a FELT meeting, right, coming up Wednesday? Is that right? Yeah, okay, yeah, Wednesday. And yeah, there's an agenda and everything. So I just want to let you know that FELT is Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we put an update for that on the next agenda?
Yeah, update for FELT, for sure.
All right, any other announcements? All right, only thing I will announce is that the next meeting will be April the 12th, and that's after we return back from spring break.
Ooh, we got to remember that, don't we?
Yeah. So I will be sending out plenty of reminders so that we can remember that one.
And so, and the chair and vice chair, we need to meet, obviously, before spring break. We probably need to meet that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if nothing else, a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn. This is Mrs. Baker.
All right,
I
Ms. Baker.
second it, Janine.
All right, Ms. Walker. Motion by Ms. Baker, second by Ms. Walker. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain. All right. Thank you all. Y'all have a great evening.
Coach, 5:30, not bad. Thank you.
I know, not bad.
All right.
Good job.